Louis Quilico was one of the leading operatic baritones of the 20th century. His sudden passing on July 15th, 2000 was a great loss to the musical world. Quilico performed at many of the world's great opera houses: Covent Garden, the Paris Opera, the Bolshoi, and the Vienna Staatsoper, to name only a few. He was a stalwart of the Metropolitan Opera, appearing nearly 300 times over 25 consecutive years. At the Met, he sang under the baton of James Levine, Zubin Mehta, Richard Bonynge and Claudio Abbado, and alongside tenors including Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, John Vickers and José Carreras, and sopranos Joan Sutherland, Renata Tebaldi, Renata Scotto, and Beverly Sills. Louis Quilico was an ideal interpreter of the great Italian and French composers, but it was his defining portrayal of Rigoletto, the hunchbacked jester in Verdi's tragic masterpiece, that won him international acclaim, as well as the nickname Mr. Rigoletto. He sang the role more than 500 times, the last being at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa in September of 1994. After his retirement from the operatic stage in 1998, he continued to perform, touring extensively with his wife, the celebrated pianist Christina Petrowska Quilico. Together they made 4 recordings and a teaching video, and collaborated on the book Mr. Rigoletto in Conversation with Louis Quilico. In this book, Quilico shared his views on singing, on opera, and on his signature role, Rigoletto. He also talked about his own personally devised vocal techniques, sharing them with a new generation of singers. What is missing in the printed version of these conversations is Quilico's own voice and his unique personality. In these recordings, we hear him speak in his own words, with his own voice, unfiltered and unedited. Speaking personally, baritone Louis Quilico, Mr. Rigoletto, in conversation with Christina Petrowska Quilico. In this conversation, Louis shares the secret to a healthy vocal sound and having a long singing career, flexibility. And he offers advice on voice lessons and singing teachers.
Talking about criticism, how about some self-criticism for you as a pianist? Tell me how you learned how to play the piano.
Well, that was a terrible thing that happened. It destroyed. Well, that's going to give you just a little idea of what you can do sometimes with the art if you're not careful. With people that are very uncertain about themselves, they're so unsure of themselves. Well, it's one of these things, I was studying at the Conservatoire Santa Cecilia in Rome, and when I enrolled, they asked me that I had to take an instrument. And I said, I would like to learn piano. And all of a sudden they said, fine, and they enrolled me in the piano class. Anyway, the first day that came that I was supposed to go for my class, I went to the conservatoire and I arrived there, and I look at the door and I waited, and all of a sudden I knock at the door, and there's a lady comes at the door and opens the door. She says, yes. I says, my name is Louis Quilico. I'm here for my lesson. She says, fine, come on in. And all of a sudden I walked in, and there was about, I would say 15 or 20 young children about the age of, I would say maybe 8 to 12 years old, something like that. Anyway, she was finishing a lesson, and I was listening to that, and I was amazed to see these young children, how they were doing with the piano. Me, I never took piano in my life, and musically I was not very yet solid. Anyway, came the moment that she said, "Well, Mr. Quilico, it's your turn, please. Sit down." And I sat there, and all these children, the first thing I know, they all came around the piano. Now, just imagine that I became red like a tomato. And I knew that I did not know nothing about piano or anything like that. And she said to me, she says, "You know where is the do?" And all of a sudden, I look at the keyboard, and trying to find out where was the do or the C. And all of a sudden, there was a little boy right next to me. He says, and you notice one thing, that I did not even know where was the C on the piano. And all of a sudden, he comes to me and he says, "Listen, you see the two black note, and there's a white note between? Well, that's the before these two black notes. That is the C. Stupid." And when I heard stupid, that was the end of my career as a pianist. I became so panicky that I got up and I says, my dear lady, I'm deeply sorry, but today I am very sick." And I walked out, and that was the end of my piano career. It stopped there.
And now, looking back, for other singers other than yourself, do you think it's important to be able to sit down and accompany yourself? Would you have liked to do that?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. There's one thing that would be very nice to be able to do it, but the only thing is we become a singer much later in life. We become singer without realizing that we become singers. And the first thing you know, it's right there on your laps. And what do you do about it? You don't really have the time to perfect, to become an instrumentalist or anything like that. But I would say that it is very important for a voice career that the person should be able to play the piano. I don't say to play concerto or anything like that, but to be able to, like for instance, if they want to study a part, that they could accompany themselves. It doesn't have to be great, but at least that they have a notion of the rhythm, for instance, with the piano, and maybe the right chord here and there, and that is the thing that's very important. Because I have to say that if you don't have that, you always need a second person. And that is the thing that's not always easy.
Okay, getting back to teaching. When I teach piano, for me the sound always comes first. I tell the student to imagine the sound, to try to picture and hear the sound in your inner ear before you think about which hand position or what you have to do physically to get the sound on the keyboard. And I know we've been talking about that. Mm-hmm. Can you expand on that topic?
Well, I have to say one thing. Maybe that is the thing that will be practically a must in the instrument. But I think vocally, it's the opposite. It's to have everything in function before you will do anything. What I mean by this, the sound is, I would say, practically the least important, because the sound is let's put it this way, is the finishing touch of what you've been doing. But you have to create through expansion, fighting a muscle, fighting tension, that the first thing you know, it has to be another thing that is naturally what comes at the end. You more or less listen to the sound, but you don't really care about really what is the sound, because the sound is a natural thing. It's an happening, and not trying to make a sound.
Well, but you have to have the sound in your inner ear. I agree. As a singer, you cannot hear yourself sing very well. That would interfere with the production. On the piano, you can hear yourself. On the violin, you can hear it. But isn't
It's
that
not,
what
hold on. The problem, not the problem, but the problem for singers, we don't see it. We don't touch it. The violin, you can see it, you can touch it. The piano, you can see it, and you can touch it. But the voice, you don't. And that's why, in a certain way, the sound indicates exactly what you are doing with the voice. But at the same time, is not to expect that you're going to try to fabricate something to make that sound. No, it's the opposite. You see, the thing is, the instrument, the beauty of the instrument, the sound is there already. Naturally, you have to create a beautiful sound. Now, the beautiful sound is created by the way you will touch the note, the way you will touch the chord. It's all right. But us, our ear will definitely help you to understand and distinguish the sound that you're going to do. But like I said, everything is done before the actual sound himself is done. And in the piano, or as well as the violin, the sound is done before you will. It's done. It's there.
Oh, I think you're misunderstanding. I'm not talking about the physical sound. I'm talking about imagining the kind of sound you would like to hear.
Well, how do you imagine something if it's only imagination? The piano, you don't have to imagine the sound that's going to come out, because the moment you touch the note, it's an automatis that the note plays exactly. If it's a C, you play a C, and you know you have touched the note of the C. Like the violin. The violin, you touch the chord exactly at the position of the C. But us, it's more or less like we have already went through the complete process of fabricating. But the fabrication is by creating the opposite of what the instrument will be. Because the instrument, it's automatic. There's a mechanic that will create the sound. But us, the singer, I don't understand the question.
Because you said you agreed with this.
Yes.
And that's what I'm asking you. Because that's what it says here. I'm talking about the quality of the sound. Where like he says, to the ability to imagine sound.
The ability to imagine the sound.
I mean,
yes.
I mean, the emotion behind the sound, the color, the quality. Don't you hear that before you actually make it? That's what I'm getting at.
I have to say, I don't think so. I think it is a thing that comes by feeling more than by actual touching.
Yeah, but how does the imagination come into this? You've got to have an imagination.
Well, like I said, it's like you when you're going to start to walk, you know that one feet will start go forward, but you just imagine for 1 minute that you're going to start to walk. You don't have to think that you're going to start to walk. There's a command in your mind that gives you the opportunity to start to walk. It's not that there's a note that would say to you, bing, walk. No. It is there. And this is the point with the voice, where in a certain way, it's very different than the instrumentalist for that reason, because it's very difficult to be able to translate these things. To be able to, before you do anything, there's a command that tells you, get rid of this, get rid of that, do this, do that, expand here, expand there. Vision the immensity. Is this clearing your question?
Well, I disagree in a way what you said about instruments, because the piano, for example, is almost a mechanical percussion instrument. So we have to work very hard to imagine a tonal color and get it, because if you just press the key, yes, the sound comes, and it is.
Yeah, but if you go to the basic of it without touching the chord, touching the key, will not create a sound.
No, I know. So in a way, it's hard for us too, if not harder, because you're using your body, you're using your imagination.
Oh, I did not say that it's more difficult. No, it's the opposite. I would say sometimes it comes at a point where your second nature, the third nature or fourth nature, will create to give you the opportunity to be able to do everything right. And this is the point that is very difficult. And when come at the point, this is where the great singers are great for that reason, because they found exactly what has to be done before even the sound comes out. And that is the thing, that is the secret. And this is the thing with singers in general. They never discovered exactly that ability to be able to find, thinking that you do vocalize, but what do you do vocalize for? It's going to give you flexibility in the voice and this and that. No. A lot of people, they will find it that way, yes, because they don't really understand. But you have these people that all of a sudden they do that for, let's say, for 5 years, 10 years, and all of a sudden they lose it. Why do you think they lose it? Because they never possess it. Their technique helped them to discover that freedom. But the freedom, they never really discovered what was the freedom.
No, this is where I find that singers have one up on a pianist, because we could have that ability, but the instrument, whatever we get at a concert, that's the sound we're going to get, no matter how subtle. Whereas if you've got a wonderful voice and you know what to do with it, you're sure, more or less, of getting a beautiful sound, or the same quality of sound at every concert. Is that right or wrong, unless you've got a bad cold or something?
Well,
but if you've got the proper technique and you've...
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. This is, in certain way, I have to say, you just touched a button that I'm thinking about. That is very true. That if a singer has understood his technique, his vocal technique I'm talking about, not how to learn to score or anything, but his vocal technique, the moment that this artist knows what to do with it, he's on easy street. That very often, for the instrumentalist, is very difficult. Because it's not a second nature very often.
No, because we have to adapt to a different instrument often each time we play a concert.
That's right.
For a pianist, and the Steinway will have a very different feel from a Bösendorfer, and so we have to readapt our physical approach to the instrument each time we play a concert. It's subtle, but it is the same thing. Whereas with you once you have that down, you can try to recreate it.
You see, the point is, with the instrumentalist, for instance, there's something I'm possibly sure that there is a tension. Just when you're going to play that instrument, there's a certain tension. It's not a big tension sometimes, but there's still the tension that will make that instrument vibrate. And us singer is the opposite. Less tension you're going to give. You see, the point is, the tension we have to give with our instrument, we still have a tension. I will not say that we don't have a tension. We have a tension, but our tension is not like in the instrumentalist. It's a flexible tension, and it is not a physical tension. And the instrument, no matter what anybody will say, it needs a certain physical tension to be able to create the sound of that instrument.
In a way, the vocal student has to be strong enough that if they are studying and the teacher is not giving them the proper technique to be able to say no before irreparable damage is done to the vocal cords. Mm-hmm. Is that not right?
Well, it is right, I have to say, but the only thing is, who is the pupil? That is the big problem. The pupil has to come in his mind, and this is what happened. If I talk about singers, the singers never really understand their instrument. Very often they think of one thing. There's got to be a tremendous pressure that will create the sound. And this is the point. There is a way to do it. It's given to you. It's like you watch these people that are runners. You see some of these runners, you say, my God, this is incredible. They don't seem to be running. It's like a blah, 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 blah. It's so flexible. Us singers, it's exactly what it is. It's to be able to discover that your technique is based of only one thing, flexibility. And the big problem, for instance, what creates the ending of a singer is when he comes a certain age. Age is a great factor for singers. All of a sudden, you don't have anymore that flexibility. Physically, is not there anymore. And that creates a tremendous problem for the singers, because even if you try to search for that flexibility, it's not there to help him.
How did you maintain that flexibility?
Well, the thing is, it's one of these things you have to keep on thinking all the time towards that. It's like, for instance, you have a lot of singers, all of a sudden they think only one thing, to make a big sound. No, fight that big sound. Because in the big sound, you don't have, like I just said, you lose the flexibility. And what's important is to be able that sound is very light, is easy to be done. But when you have to do the opposite, plus on top of that, you are able to keep that sound on a certain level, on a certain height, that's where it belongs. And this is what happened with singers. They don't exactly favor that. What they prefer to do is to all of a sudden to give big sound. And that is the beginning of the end.
To push.
Push.
Instead of thinking about the role, maybe the inflection, especially the language. When you sing each role, I've noticed it's a different sound. I mean, it's still the beautiful voice, but
yeah.
you inflect it with the flavor of that particular role, and you do a lot of pianissimos, and this is all in the mind. And,
absolutely.
And the emotional content of the role.
The mind controls everything. No matter what anybody will say, it controls. Like, this is the thing that you just touch the button. That us is part of our instrument. To be able to touch, but at the same time, it is not a touch. Human touch is the opposite. It's a mind touch. It's mind over matter, and that's what it is. But this is the problem with, in general, like I said, and I come back always to this, that singers, before they start to become great singers, all of a sudden you listen to it and you say, no, I'm sorry to say it. And you feel it. And this is why singers don't last.
Well, I feel that there's a lot of psychological damage with too much advice. You've got piano coaches that are not vocal teachers giving advice to young singers where they never sang a note. You've got a diction coach probably giving advice. You've got stage directors. You've got conductors. Everybody but a real vocal teacher. It's just an observation that I have. But in watching the great singers and knowing a little bit about them, I find that most of it is really self-taught, self-created, learning that technique and learning your roles.
I have to say one thing. The tragedy, if I would call it as a tragedy, is that really the great singer should be a great teacher. But in general, what is happening with great singers, they come and achieve a perfection in their instrument, and very often they don't exactly know what they're doing. And sometimes they don't want to ask themselves because it's there to serve to them.
I agree. I was talking with John Roberts about Glenn Gould, and Glenn Gould, of course, had a phenomenal technique. And John asked Glenn, well, do you ever analyze it? Why don't you teach? And Glenn Gould said, oh my God, I don't want to even know how I do it. I look upon the keyboard as a battlefield. And if I start to think, I won't be able to do it anymore.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people will happen, these things, because they don't exactly, they don't analyze. The only problem is, you got some singers that they don't analyze, and they are able to surmount so many years, decades of singing for that reason. They don't bother to try to analyze. They have a feeling for it. And how do you explain to somebody feeling about this, feeling about that? It's, for some people, it's a difficult thing to explain. You're, how can I say, a person that is, a feeling. How do you explain a feeling to somebody? It's very difficult to explain for that reason, because it's not there. It's there, but it's not there for you to really discover maybe the word, or they're not, like I said, it's very difficult for that reason to find what is a feeling.
Also, it's because the action of the vocal cords is unseen, so you can't really show.
That's what I said since the beginning. Because you see the piano, the note is there, you can touch it. The violin, you see the what you call. Naturally, these people that have become great pianists or a great violinist, they come at a point where they don't even see the chord. They don't feel it. But the only thing is, it's a feeling of distance and all that. And this is the thing, but it's still, at the very beginning, something that was there for them to be able to see.
Well,
but us singers, we don't see these things.
Also, as I said, with pianists, you may have one or two bad teachers, and you learn pretty quick to leave them. But you don't have so much different advice as I feel there is in vocal schools, where you have so many different people who actually don't sing, giving advice to young singers, and this tends to confuse them in my conversations with a lot of the young students. How is one going to treat that today, and what does one do as a young singer when they go to an opera? And this has just been said to me recently. I've got one conductor telling me to do this aria this way. I've got the assistant conductor telling me to do it another way. I've got the piano coach who doesn't sing trying to tell me to do the aria still a third way. And then if you've got the diction person, what does a young artist do? Do you have advice about that?
The only advice I have to say, it's a difficult field for that reason. You have to come at a point when you can surpass these things. That somebody, you come and it tells you this or that. For instance, just lately I've been in the barber. Well, there's one of the coaches that tell me, you have to do this way, you have to do it that way. And I'm sorry, I've heard many times. I don't go according to what I have heard, but I see and I feel that certain things has to be done in a certain way. And that is the big problem. When conductors or a coach or anything like that, they try to touch something that wait till the end. See. But very often they don't, because they want to impose their way of doing it. And that is a dangerous thing for young singers, for instance. They will try to comply to what it is asked and what is happening. That asking to do something that is against them, that might impair them in what they were supposed to do.
So the idea is to think very strongly about taking a role or taking advice as long as it doesn't damage the voice or as long as it doesn't go against what you feel is right for your technique at the time.
I'm going to tell you one thing. There is one thing that I think the singers, and this is where singers are missing. 95 to 98% singers don't have the foggiest idea of what they're supposed to do. A conductor will come in and they'll ask him to do it one way. They'll go to another performance, the conductor will ask them to do it that way. You have to come at one point where you have to say to yourself, wait, I'm learning how to do it, learn how to do it. And that is the point. Most of the time, they don't learn how to do it. And people are, what can you do? It should not be done by just simply somebody asking you to do something. No, it's the opposite.